Hey there, everybody. This is Hayden, one half of the Orana podcast. I want to tell you about one of the best ways to save money while on Rarotonga, and that's with Chantal's discount card. It's a digital card that is stored in your phone that you use all around Rarotonga. Save money on dining, shopping, activities, and local services, and so much more. I know when I get back to Raro, I'll be purchasing one myself. A 1-month card starts at just $20 for 30 days. Check out how much you can save while on the island at chantalsconcierge.com/card. That's chantalsconcierge.com/card. Welcome to the Orana podcast, a show about what you will find, what you will not find in the Cook Islands. And now here's your host, Chantal Napa.
Orana, kia koutou katoto, ko te eku Chantal Napa no te kuki airani mai. Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Orana podcast, a weekly show about what you will find and will not find in the Cook Islands. Our guest today is John Loau from Auckland, New Zealand. Pacific Islander, born in Samoa, lived in New Zealand early years and grew up in Southern California from East L.A. to the Pacific Palisades and moved back to New Zealand from 2011. I was introduced to John through a friend of mine, Whaavai Ngangamoe in Auckland. I received a message from Whaavai and he says, hey, I'm connecting you to John's coming over to Rarotonga with his wife, Amanda, for a holiday. They'll be staying at the Edgewater. And then we had a really quick chat, you and I, John, with Whaavai, introduced me. And then a few days later, you're on the ground in Rarotonga.
Yeah.
And first time for you, but second time for your wife, Amanda.
That's right.
Yeah. So we connect in Raro, and then I come over to the hotel where you're staying at the Edgewater. And I really wish that I was recording us chatting then because,
Yes.
I just go, tell me your story, John.
Yeah.
And boom.
There's a lot in there.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
And throughout that, I say to you, I now know why Whaavai connected us.
Yeah.
And so we've had some meals together, me and your wife. We've had a drink here and there. You have been here. Our borders just opened in the Cooks on January the 13th. You two arrived the 18th? 17th.
Yep.
And you had a couple of days of nice sun. And then the Tonga eruption happened.
That's it.
With the volcano.
Yep.
And boom, again.
It's been an interesting one, that's for sure.
And today, I got you to help me the other night, you and your wife, off the back of the truck. I'm like, all right, John, this is your introduction to the Cook Islands. I need you to go there, please, and lift that, big archway up and put it onto the back of the truck and find something to latch it onto. And out you jump, right?
Yeah.
Up away.
Oh, it's easy. You just know as an islander, you're going to go to the islands. You might end up doing some chores. Just be ready.
And then today we got some sun. And your wife Amanda's like, you two go. I am catching these rays.
That's right. Yeah. So she's a lot more fair-skinned than me, so she needs to bake a little bit.
Yeah.
And catch some sun so she can brown out a bit. So,
yeah. And as soon as we finish this, we're going to head back to the Edgewater and we're going to meet up with them. We're going to have a nice 5 p.m. happy hour cocktail to all of you listening. All right. Sun's come back up. We've had back up. No, it was always there. It's just now we can see it and feel it. But today's Sunday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
High winds. It's not normal, all right, John? Like a lot of visitors have been saying to me, is this normal?
Well, yeah. Most people go, oh, it's cyclone season. And kind of go, oh, well, you knew when you booked it. If you didn't look, well, then that's your problem. You just have to just go with it.
Yeah, That's right. So I don't know. There's so much that I'd like to talk to you about. Thank you for coming to Raro. Did you choose to come to Rarotonga, John, because you couldn't get out of New Zealand, Auckland for a while?
It was more accidental, but Kirana and Talofa Lava, thank you for having me. It was more accidental. So a colleague of mine, we both work as advisors for the COVID response in New Zealand. And I think it was somewhere around November, we were discussing what our workforce should look like and, what the end of the year looks like and what we're up to. And he just casually, while I had him on speakerphone, casually had said, "Oh, I'm booked to go to Raro." I said, "Dude, when?" And he says, "Oh, well, quarantine-free travel, which is quite an important part, is open on this particular date." So he booked to come a couple of days. He lives just down the road from you here. And Amanda was sitting on the couch, and all she heard was, "Raro? What's happening? Who's going to Raro?" And I said, "Oh, Paul's going to Raro because it's quarantine-free travel. It's back." And yeah, he's gone. So without thinking, she started looking, and she's yelling out all these things. I'm like, "Can you leave me alone? I'm trying to talk to Paul about the COVID response." And she's like, "Well, when is he going? How long is he going? Where is he going? Where's he staying?" I go, "He's from Raro. He won't be staying in a hotel. He'll be staying at home." And all this other stuff. Anyhow, it was a 30-minute conversation with Paul. But by the time the conversation was done, she's like, "Right, we're booked to go to Raro." And I'm like, I don't even know what it means right now. But okay, sure. And for her, it was finally an opportunity to get on an airplane and go somewhere else.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
She's like, "We're going.
Let's make it happen."
Yeah, that's it. Make it happen. So she's been here before. She was excited to bring me here. She's been talking about it for a while. And I think that's where she overlooked what the weather is. She's a former travel agent,
You wouldn't have been able to though, John. Like in November when she booked, you couldn't have foreseen this.
Well, nobody can. So I just think the excitement caught up. I've never been here before, and I just said, "Oh, sure, whatever. Let's just do." I'm pretty crazy and easy for me.
But it has been wild, eh?
Oh, it has been wild. It definitely has not been boring. That's for sure. So even with the, I guess the increase, winds, waves, and everything. Obviously, weather affected from the eruption in Tonga has played a massive part in the weather cycle here. It has
Do you remember
changed
on Friday night when we went to deliver that arch in the truck?
Yep.
When I brought you two back to your hotel, after I went back home, they closed it. They closed that seawall.
Oh, right. Yes.
We were one of the first people, not last, I reckon, to go to drive through that area because it's been blocked off now Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then everyone's been taking that back detour road.
Yep.
So yeah, coconut tree fronds all over the place, coconuts all over the place. But that's normal. It won't take long for us to clean that all up. It actually has been very minimal damage considering it's cyclone season anyway for us. So in amongst, John, other businesses and governance roles, you are an experienced review specialist via TripAdvisor with posts read over 500,000 readers from across the globe. Tell me about that, please.
Yes, I'm a bit of a dweeb. So I like sharing. That's probably the most important thing. Like it probably comes from our Pacific side. We like taking care of the extended.
Innate.
So, sharing as much as possible, even if it's through photos and those things. So I've always posted on TripAdvisor and things, especially for people who are traveling to New Zealand. And one of the things I found on TripAdvisor and other platforms that I blog for is that when someone's asking, what is this restaurant like or what is this hotel like, you read through the reviews because you're hoping that you're going to get some concrete information. Most of it is just very bland. This place has got 5 stars from Jenny whatever, and Jenny has said it's a great place, great staff, and you'll have a great time with it because, what are the rooms like? Because I look at it from an overall experience of this is what I'm going to be paying for. What am I in for? And that's why I classify myself more of an experienced review specialist versus a hospitality expert in those things. Because I tell everyone, look, I'm a professional customer. I know what I want and what I'm expecting when I go to McDonald's, and then when I'm going to go to fine dining.
I like that.
And
professional customer.
Yeah, I'm a professional customer, and we all are. And and we know in sales that referrals are the best leads for making money. And when you got a solid direct referral from a person that's reputable in your circle, then you just know that, hey, if I say, hey, look, go to that place and tell them I sent you, then that's quite a powerful lead, that when they walk into the restaurant, they're like, oh, yes, actually, he's here quite often. Yeah, we'll take care of you. So if I found it lacking in the TripAdvisor thing. So I was quite detailed with my reviews. I remember friends of mine telling me, oh, my God, dude, you're writing a novel. I said, well, I'm not writing a novel. I'm just writing what I think I would be looking for. And it just started catching on. So we fast forward a few years, and then the coronavirus appears on the scene. And then the first lockdown. And there are several groups that I'm involved in from the business end, especially in hospitality, that took a massive hit during the first round of the lockdown for us 2 years ago in New Zealand. And so many of them were just first time experiencing something like this. They weren't prepared for it. And, the messages going out was, we have to support small businesses. And I thought, well, how do we do that? And so I decided there's a few things I want to do, but I want to combine them all. So I started, again, doing what a lot of people were doing during the first lockdown, exercising every day. So I was exercising in the morning and in the evening, and I was sharing my thoughts of the day. Like, this is what, my mindset for the morning, and then kind of a review in the evening. But I started doing that in front of businesses that I know, because it's not enough to say we need to support local businesses. I thought, I need you to see the businesses that I'm at. And, and I would just do my videos and work out there and whatever, and say, look, my workout's brought to you by the coffee club in Hobsonville Point. Go down here, speak to the team down here when it opens up, blah, blah, blah. So that was just kind of my thing. And then I would write these reviews as well on TripAdvisor, started pinging them out. And TripAdvisor kind of picked up my reviews, because people there's people were looking at it going, oh, and asking questions, because you're probably the best to answer this question. Answer this question. So I'm in there because it's locked down. We got nothing else to do. So I'm, so away I go. And what I found was, after we came out of level 4 and went into level 3 and then level 2, a lot of the businesses that I was doing my videos in front of and exercises in front of in the morning and in the afternoon, or just throughout the day, I think, oh, I remember that place. I think I'm going to go there and, and do a quick video. They were watching, and they were really appreciative. And they were like, hey,
there's that guy.
There's that dude. And
let's give him a coffee and say thank you.
That's right. So, so it's great losing all the weight. And then, of course, having to eat at all these fantastic places that were like, here, no, your money's no good today. We don't want your money. Thank you for doing what you're doing in lockdown. And then I think it was probably like 4 months into it that some of the businesses were like, hey, do you do anything else other than blog about this on TripAdvisor? I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what are you looking for? I said, well, what else could we do to improve this place? Because you're obviously doing a positive review, but are there things you recommend that we should do, whether it's training staff or improving maybe the paint color of the building? Like, what do you think? And I thought, yeah, sure, didn't miss a beat. And so, well, do we need to pay for that? Yeah, sure. How much is it? So I'll just throw out a number. People were like, yep, cool, that's not a problem. So I started not only writing my reviews, but then writing recommendations for the businesses. They would call me and book me in, and the interesting thing was, as I said, look, number one, I'll try everything on the menu. Number two, but I've got to bring people to help me eat all this, because there's a lot of carbs here and I don't have enough time in the day to work it all. So I just get everything in saucer size, bring my friends around and other people to experience, the food and what they think as well. And then I just take feedback and, so I just call friends and go, hey, do you want to join me here? I'm at a cafe. I'm here all day. They're like, hey, cool. What are you doing there? And just go at it.
Yeah,
just go at the food. So, yeah, I'd write a report. So I'd write a review based on my initial kind of experience there. But then I'd also be writing the recommendations for the businesses. Everything from, this is what when I drive up, this is what I'm looking at, and I'm thinking, wow, this is a great place to look at. Or kind of, I don't know about that sandwich board. It looks like it's from 1960. Do you want to change that? Because it's falling apart. Just kind of simple things from an aesthetic standpoint, and then moving internally from what it looks like inside, what the feel in the ambience and the environment feels like, and then people itself, because that's what businesses are. It's people to people relationships, and how you feel. Sometimes I went in the venues where you kind of going, is someone going to serve me here? Like, I'm the only. It's sometimes like, I'm the only brown guy here. Is this what's happening? Which many, of course not, but you just can't help. But those things I felt was really helpful for a lot of my clients who just said, hey, fantastic. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen again, because we're in Auckland, one of the most diverse cities in the world. We can't have people feeling like that. And go, yep, just kind of notice that I wasn't getting needed service and things. And so I was writing reports and passing them on. And I think about 6 months later, the same businesses are kind of going, "Oi, we got the report, we went through it, but now we're just kind of wondering, how do we implement some of these things?
And how do we make those improvements that you are suggesting?"
Exactly. So again, not missing a beat. They're just
Very
like,
cool.
"How much does that cost?" I threw out a number. They're like, "Great." So I found myself doing, training sessions from a business development standpoint. So that was
fun. I'm just going to go and get a mosquito coil, everyone, because there's 2 mosquitoes in our little office. Keep going.
Yeah. So I found myself, getting paid to write recommendations, and then being paid to help them implement it. And sometimes it was just a 1-day workshop. Other times it was 3 or 4 day workshop. And in the current COVID environment, when you send someone an invoice, you just have to be flexible when they say, "Hey, look, can we spread it across whatever?" For me, I'm just like, "Yeah, sure. No, that's no problem. Whatever worked for you," because the idea is to ensure that the business is still going, because these businesses are supporting how many employees, how many families that rely on those things. So, so the experience review stuff just was primarily accidental. And then I'd just start getting these emails from TripAdvisor saying, "Congratulations, you're in the top 2%, of this reviewing category. Congratulations. Hey, check this out. And, you're being read, 10,000 times." And I thought, "Oh, that's great." And then it's like, "Oh, you're being read 50,000 times." And I'm going, "Oh, that's fantastic." And then when it started climbing, and I just thought, "Oh, this is weird." I think if I had 1 million viewers, might be considered an influencer at that stage. But this is just me casually.
I'm really glad, John,
just
that
writing.
I'm asking you this 4 days after knowing you, because if I'd known this 4 days ago when I initially met you, right? I kind of because remember, I'm just thinking I would have been really nervous, but now 4 days later. Yeah. Right, because we haven't really talked about this.
No,
what we've talked about is the high winds, the high rain, what restaurants not open, and I'm at the bus stop. Okay, I'll pick you 2 up, we're here now, Chantel. So I pull up and I'm like, "Jump in," and I didn't even know you. Just from Whaavai saying my friend is in town. And then I got a message from you at the bus stop, and I'm like, "I'm not far away." I pull up. So 4 days later, now I'm listening to you with this review specialist via TripAdvisor, 500,000 readers. I'm like, maybe that's why Whaavai introduced me to John for John Tells Concierge.
Look, for your listeners, I'll review anything. I've reviewed McDonald's. I reviewed skate parks where kids go. I'll review the same restaurant a few times just so that people can get a gauge. Because some people are like, "Hey, is this a great place to eat with my family?" And I'll reply back and say, "Fantastic place if your family is from 15 years old and up. If you're taking children, probably not the best restaurant experience for you, or other customers might want to choose a different kind of. Here's some recommendations." So like I said, I'll just review anything, because I just feel that. Information is important, but real quite not so much qualified, but just a genuine view of an individual's experience will help kind of, guide your own decision making of, hey, should I go here? Should I go there? So Amanda's, she's been all around the Pacific, and one of her trips, we went to Samoa, and she's just like, "Holy, this is very different," and what So I try to listen to other people's experiences. And
because
try
you
to hone in on
review
that
everything from local parks, eateries, hotels, hospitality venues, and you sort of emerge it. Is that the same as bring together? Working alongside your other businesses to help with that growth.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is to collate as much as that is possible. So I always was telling one of my cousins, she says, "When people say you can't judge me, well, actually I can." That's what this is. But I go to a lot of places, and I try to not only enjoy where I'm at, but you just kind of think like, "Oh, did I really pay $40 to come to this place? Is this real?" At some point, you can't help but think, did I get a return on this money that was spent, a return on spend versus
value?
Yeah, exactly.
I get told that a lot, John, like in concierge, right? So a lot of my clients, and even just my clients who just left today. They just left today. Max Smith and Matthew Holder. They said, Chantal, do you know your value? They said, you're amazing. Like you go above and beyond. And I'm looking at them, John, and I'm like, they're telling you something, Chantal.
Yep.
They're telling you something, right? And I really appreciate that. They just left today. They were here for 5 days. Amazing clients on the ground. So much fun. I got great feedback from them from my service that I did for them. So I'm listening, Max, okay? So I'll be contacting you when you get back and asking you more about that growth. So I've got a little note here, John, back to you, that you are also a speaker on business, current affairs, growth, and other topics. So does that mean you get engaged as a speaker?
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, so I'm on the speaking circuit. So
great.
I think, it's in that space. It's you want to look for speakers that look like the audience and
that look like the audience.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's from definitely very different views, right? Yeah. Whether they're small business owners, whether they're been self-employed, whether they're Pacific people or a brown person in general, have they engaged in the global sense? You want the audience to not necessarily walk into a room and go, holy crap, this is a prophet.
To feel familiar.
Yeah,
and feel connected.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because if that's what you're looking for, we know that 80% of businesses that in the economy are small, medium businesses. So I always find it interesting that when I am asked to speak and I'm in a speaking card with other large speakers that are just global phenomenons or even national, heavyweights, that I look at them and I look at the audience and think, I wonder whether or not the advice that's going to be provided from their experience is going to have any real impact or add any value to the people in the room.
Yeah.
And I found that during COVID-19, that's where it kind of really picked up steam. People were going, hey, we need you to come and speak in this event. Here's a speaking fee. I think, oh, okay. All right. That's fantastic. Let's do that. And I remember being at an event, speaking. It's a room full of 250 business owners, right? Small, medium business owners. And I'm listening to the first two speakers, and I was the third speaker and last speaker. And I thought one's a global CEO. In a night, of the realm and all this other stuff. And I thought, wow, fantastic. I listened to his advice and thought, okay, that's great. Then I hear the other guy speak, and, he's a national, business figure that everyone sees on television. I thought, wow. I was probably at the bottom of the pile when I needed the third speaker, because I just thought, what am I doing in a room on a panel with these three? But I'm listening to their advice and I'm looking at the room and I'm wondering, is it getting through? Yeah. Do you know what they're talking about? And then when you have the Q&A session, no one's asking questions to these figures. And I thought, oh, interesting. And I remember the topic was about pivoting, pivot, right? And I thought, well, interesting, pivot. That's what they want us to talk about. And I spent no time, preparing for pivoting, because I just thought, well, in some of my businesses, which reflect the audience in the room, pivot actually doesn't work. And I'm sitting there kind of going, all right, I'm listening to these people. And I got up and it was my turn. And I said, how many people understand what pivot means? And no one really knew what they were talking about. I said, so you've been listening to two speakers talk to you about pivot. You just paid $160 to listen to us speak. During the Q&A session, no one's asked a question. So before I get on with my spiel, just wondering, does anyone actually have a question about pivoting that you'd like to ask before I start moving forward? And guy raises his hand. He goes, yeah, I just don't know what they mean by pivot. I hear everything else, but I'm not sure how pivot slots in. And I said, great. Well, let me help you here. Who has a business that employs 150 people or more? Two people raise their hand. I said, great. Pivot belongs to you two in the back of the room. So their advice belongs to you two. My advice to you, the rest of your room, is that you need to understand what pivot is. So I did a little demonstration. People kind of got it. They saw it and I thought, right, cool. So now, based on this demonstration I've done, do you think you can do that with your business? Could you flex your business in that same aspect? And many of them are shaking their head going, no. And you hear the room kind of murmuring.
Is that fear, John?
Yes. It's fear at its
Sorry,
that
just came to me.
Yeah, what's fear?
Because I'm thinking, if I was listening to you and if I was sitting in that room and what you just said now, And if they said to you no, to me, that's fear.
Yeah.
Of the unknown, of
Yeah.
change, of I don't,
Yeah. I mean,
Please continue.
It's the simple things that, you just kind of go, one guy who's a butcher and he says, I've never had a website. I said, are you in a position to retire? And he says, no, I'm not. I said, why would you not get a website? Why would you not do online ordering? And he said, oh, this is how I've always done business. I said, but have you ever been in a pandemic situation?
It's not the same outside the door anymore.
And many of them kept saying things like, we're waiting to return to normal. So this is normal. Yeah. This is now normal. Move forward from this point. So I found while being on the speaking circuit that it's quite important to not only find speakers that can connect with the audience, but they should look and feel and be familiar and be able to, cut through, I guess, some of the, like for a better word, bullshit that's kind of spouted from, many of the speakers that I've heard. All great advice, but, if you can't take it and implement it, then where do you go from here? So I did find that exercise really interesting. So,
sorry, that person said urgent.
No worries. Yeah. So I speak on that. Just speak to the young people now, which is strange because I'm 40 and I used to think I was a young person. And now when I go into a room and I'm looking at these young kids who want to be entrepreneurs, again, I find myself not going against the grain, but probably asking them to think a bit harder about some of the real tougher steps that you need to make. I was part of the youth enterprise scheme, Shark Tank group of judges. And I sat there listening and talking to the group of students who are there, young entrepreneur specific people and all these other students from across the country. And they're all want to be business owners. And they're all, and you get all the great advice of, get started. And if you want to, you can do anything you want and those things. So all of that's fantastic. I've listened to again to these speakers and got up and I said, how many of you understand and can define what it means to be an entrepreneur? Because everyone's saying entrepreneur. I thought, how many can define your journey as an entrepreneur? Can you define yourself as an entrepreneur? Of course, nobody can. In that room at that age, there, some will took a stab at it. I thought, okay, cool. Nowhere close. It says, if you don't understand how to define yourself as an entrepreneur and define that journey, then how will you take the advice you've heard over here and implement it? So this is all fantastic. This is great advice, but we need to get the mindsets started first. And then we need to take these other steps to define you as an entrepreneur and your journey. Where are you at in your journey? No one's going to give you at 100%. But if you're 60%, in your journey as an entrepreneur, then you're a lot further ahead than someone who maybe just started. And then you can help those individuals. But I find with, again, in that space, from a growth space, I thought, well, I enjoy listening to a lot of speakers and the advice that they're given. There's always seems to be, for me, certain steps that are a bit harder. And people say, well, that's part of the business journey. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. It says, but why are we not discussing that as part of our gig, considering people pay to listen to us, to give out advice? This is not a Tony Robbins conference where you want to know more information, buy my book. That's not what we're here for. We're here to
just
give it
sort
out.
of off, like not off, but like I listen to a lot of podcasts, right? And they're like speakers. Do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. Why would you not do that? No. And I'm like, not a lot of them talk about like the difficultness of having, a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old. Like, I think, how can they do all this? Like, who's looking after their kids? While they're doing this, right? Who's dropping them off, picking them up, taking them to soccer, getting their, because they're just like, and I do this and I do this and I do this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, because your wife's looking after your children. Yeah. So you can, so how about the single parents? Like, just this, you can't, it's like a bowl of M&Ms. We are not all yellow color M&M, blue color M&M. And I think that's what you're trying to say when you're looking at a room, so.
Yeah, the speaking circuit's interesting. There's a lot of, and I like listening to the speakers. I'm quite interested
in that myself now, listening to you.
I like dissecting the information.
I'm the same too, because I look around and then, You got to try and relate to your people in the room. Like you've got to say, hi, what's your name? Like even if you're on the stage, Mary, Mary, how many children you got?
Yep.
Right. Okay. And how many have you got? All right. So let's try and give an example to you around your family. You got, so I love the line that people say to me, so what do you do at Chantal's concierge? What do you do? And I go, it's really, really simple. Chantal's concierge is your local connection to local people and local knowledge. Full stop. Full stop. It's just connection. And it's a gift and it's a talent to learn to connect.
Yep.
To learn to connect. Cool. Thank you for introducing me to John. Right. So what was travel like, John, in, the COVID-19 environment?
So, travel's very interesting. So, international travel is still happening for, with various requirements. But, from us in New Zealand, where our borders have been some of the tightest as far as travel abroad for leisure, right? Been very difficult, to try to move into that space. New Zealand and the Cook Islands have a quarantine-free travel. And ideally, you think you'd be able to go down to the airport like back in the day and just scan your passport, away you go. But due to our situation and our evolving situation in New Zealand, there's the travel between the two countries. It's not just one country sets the outlines the requirements and everybody else follows. The Cook Islands obviously will respond as appropriate. So when the border and quarantine-free travel opened, everyone's like, great, fantastic, especially because we were able to just go in. There's some manual processing going on, which kind of threw you back to the 80s and 90s. You're kind of going, okay, cool. The recommendation to be at the airport 3 hours before your flight is not a recommendation anymore. Like, you need to get there early because of those things are processing. But we did have a situation in New Zealand where Omicron landed. The government's response was still evolving. And then we had a Omicron positive case walk out of self-isolation, which then prompted, some other concerns in New Zealand. The Cook Islands obviously reacted by going, well, we're going to need PCR tests now done, and we're going to need you to do X, Y, and Z
what
activity.
Does that mean, John?
So the PCR test, that's the nasal swab that you get for COVID-19.
Okay.
And so at the moment, that's New Zealand and the Cook Islands recognize that as the best form for testing.
And John, my clients who arrived here the day after you said that you can be assured, Chantal, that every single person sitting in this room, because I went to their restaurant to meet them, and but I'm okay, I got my booster, and they said you can be assured that every single person sitting in this restaurant here 2 days ago, we all paid $250 to get a safety test, another test. We would not come here. And so, you look around the room and every person who is on the ground here at the moment in Rarotonga paid an extra safety test 48 hours beforehand, $250.
Well, it was, so you get you need to be double jabbed before you get here, before you can even think about buying a ticket. And originally it was 72 hours out from the PCR test, but, the Cook Islands decided to change it to 48 hours. Just to make sure that window is really, really tight. So, so it's definitely making sure that if you're going to travel, at the moment, you're going to need to be double backed. And then there are additional costs that are not subsidized. So, Amanda and I, we had to shop around. We found a place that was charging us $220, but that's $220 on top of, what we've already spent to secure the flights and then secure the hotel. And then, of course, you figuring out what you're spending while you're here. So it was a unexpected cost that was kind of just left lingering around in the background. So we did all that. And, of course, we had in order for us to get our testing on time, we had to do it on a Sunday and then carry the test to the lab test. So very fast turnaround. So the system works really well, but it's an additional cost that we have to now consider as travelers. If you're looking to go abroad, it's not just budgeting for your flight and those things. You'll have to consider that you'll have to pay for these tests in order to enter another country. For everyone's peace of mind. Will it keep Omicron out and the coronavirus out? possibly or possibly not. But we want to make sure that we give, the countries you're flying into, we want to make sure that you give them every opportunity to mitigate as much of that as possible. We've learned from the Spanish flu. We've learned from the measles outbreak in Samoa that people just don't listen. We've learned it in Auckland several times when people were supposed to be locked down, but they got on a plane and flew down to the other parts of the country, falsifying documents. So we realized, humans are just going to do what humans are going to do, which is every now and then step out and color outside the lines. So we've got to mitigate that as much as possible so you can enjoy the paradise that's Rarotonga and everything else in the Cook Islands.
And what did you do while you're here? I mean, during our cyclone season, you haven't been able to do any tours, eh? But you've been on the bus a lot.
Yeah. So the riding the bus was definitely for me because I like.
I'm only
touring.
laughing because today Amanda said, "I'm not going on the bus again. I feel like cabin fever going round and round. You and John go.
Yeah.
I'm staying by the pool.
I'm gonna get a massage." So so I found that to be a great way to see the whole island.
Yeah, from a height too.
Yeah, definitely from a height. And my recommendation is do them both clockwise and counterclockwise or anti-clockwise because there's so much to see. For me, I'm sitting on this side of the bus. I want to focus on this side of the bus and everything on that side. And I've done it for a few days, and I'll jump on the next side of the bus and go, I want to see the other side.
You can drive us home then today, okay? Because you've been on the left-hand side with me in the vehicle a couple of times, so you can drive home. I'll sit on the left-hand side this time if you want.
Yeah. So it's a great way to see it. And then for me, I keep mental notes or I take photos of locations I see and think, I'll want to look that place up.
We've done some cool things, together.
Yeah, absolutely. So
today I took you up to Purple Waterfall today.
That was really, really cool.
It was gushing, the water was gushing out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Then we had to gap it because of all the mosquitoes.
Yeah, I was about to say, definitely keep the windows up in the car.
Then you asked me about our water tank. So as we were driving up that waterfall road, there's this huge tank. You go, oh, there's my answer.
Yeah.
I'm like, go read that storyboard over there. That'll tell you.
That's it.
Then I took you up to see Te Awa Iro at our compost facility.
Yep. That was very cool to see.
A lot of this stuff is off the beaten track that I've taken you to. And then I took you to our land at Tapunui, showed you my cousin Esther's house.
Yep.
And then when we came outside, we saw all those young coconuts that had been blown off the tree. And I was like, John, when's the last time you husked the coconut?
That's right.
You're like, 2003, I think, when I was last home.
Yeah, and I got left out. So
I said, well, okay, this is what my friend said to me, is pop it in there to the core, the sharp stick, and we just use our weight. And you know what?
That's it.
We husked 3.
That's it. No, we did. That was really fun. For me, it was definitely a great experience to do that. You had to come all the way to Raro to
I videoed you husking it.
I've been to Samoa probably like 6 or 7 times in that time and still haven't husked any coconut since I've been back. So that was really cool. I like the off the beaten track stuff because you want to see what everybody else is kind of doing and just kind of hanging out.
And then we walked. Then I said to you, and then I said, hey, you want to see this little piggy? Well, she's not little, she was massive.
Yeah, that's right.
I said, she's just nuzzled herself around the house, around the side of the house.
So we fed the random pig that we have no clue who it owns.
And we just cracked our coconuts that we'd husked after we drunk them. And then you're like, is she gonna eat the shell? I'm like, bro, look at those teeth. She's gonna eat whatever she wants.
Whatever she wants, she's going for. Yeah.
And I said, there's some pawpaw trees that have been blown down in the wind. Let's go get her some pawpaw. She'd love that.
That's it. It was quite cool to do all that. What else did we do? Moving that wedding arch in the middle of a cyclone.
Yeah,
that
delivering
was really
that.
Cool. And delivering it. That was cool.
That wasn't cool. It was crazy.
It was crazy, but it's still cool. Yeah, exactly. So.
And then we had to go on a journey to look for pure blonde beer.
Yes, that's right. I thought
for you.
Yes,
because I was like, "There's only 4 places," and you're like, "What? No wonder there's no more at the Edgewater Hotel."
Yeah. And my first 2 days, I was drinking pure blondes, and I remember
shout out Pure Blonde, lucky you. But that's what John wanted me to find for him. So there we are in the vehicle driving around Rarotonga looking for Pure Blonde,
looking for low carb beer, and they said to me, "That's the last one." I said, "Oh, like
on Rarotonga or in the hotel
for me or for the day?" She goes, "Oh no, we're out." I said, "Okay, cool." And then of course the next day came around, and I said, "Oh,
and I was with you, and you're like,
"Can I get a Pure Blonde?" And
Pure
they're
Blonde.
like, "No, we're still out." I was just like, "What?"
And you know what you would do? if you can't get it delivered, right? I'm just saying because I'd be the sales girl, right? If you can't get it delivered to the hotel, I would send one of my staff down to one of the 4 convenience stores that sells it and go, we cannot have, there's 100 people staying here at the moment. 5% of them might be asking for pure blonde, you know, go down and clear out the shops and just add a buck on.
That's it. I mean, I drink pure blondes because they're low carb beers. I'm predisposed to diabetes, so I try to make sure I keep my numbers in check. And part of that exercise is consuming a low carb beer, which is pure blondes. Let's see what else I've been. So I've gone running just about every morning, which is an interesting exercise.
What time do you do that?
Generally about 6:30 in the morning.
Okay, nice and cool. But you've been running in that weather.
Yeah, that's right. So I thought I was faster than the rain, but every day it's caught me. And so you start off nice and dry, and then you come back slash with your shoes and everything. And then every night, my ritual every night is to stuff my shoes full of tissue, and then blow dry them.
Wet, yeah.
And then blow dry them with the blow dryer.
Yeah.
So because it's not a good idea to put them through dryers because you could bang it out and it could shrink them. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing. And
I stick mine in the windows.
Yeah.
You know the sill, you know how we have louvers.
Yeah.
So I stick them in there, and the wind comes through. But you're in a hotel, and you don't have louvers, eh?
No.
Yeah.
Plus, I need them really, really dry so I can hit.
Oh well, so this is okay. So the solution to this is next time you go away, take 2 pairs.
Well,
if you're as fanatic as you about running.
Well, the idea was I was going to buy some other running shoes when I got here, but you don't
buy them here. It's too expensive. You buy them over there.
They're about the same price. So I just thought, oh well, whatever's I can buy another pair while I'm here. Oh no, the shop.
Oh no, you went there on Saturday to buy them, and they closed town now.
Yeah, I think on Friday we were walking around and kind of going, oh, what do you mean you're closing now? Oh, okay, we'll get the hell out of the shop then.
No, that was because of our bad weather.
Exactly.
They weren't closing. They were closing downtown, everyone, right? Because of the weather. They were boarding buildings up.
That was it.
And then Amanda and John figure on Saturday morning they'll go to the Saturday market, and then they go into town and nothing's open because everything's boarded up.
Yeah. So that was unfortunate. We did make it to the museum library. The library museum. That was fun. So not nice and quaint, and lots of interesting things. But the National Museum, for some strange reason, is closed on the weekend, even on a Saturday.
Because there's government workers. They only work Monday to Friday.
Right.
Government. So the National Museum is government, right?
Yeah.
And the other museum you went to is run by Jen Mason. She's not government. She's private. That's why she's open on Saturdays until 1:30. Right. Ask concierge. See, now, if you paid the fee to me, you could have been asking me all these questions.
Well,
right?
On our first bus ride as we came around the island, because we haven't connected.
I'm like,
fully.
no, I'm going to let that someone ride around on that bus.
Yeah. And we saw the sign. It says Chantel's concierge. Do you think it's the same one? I thought, I don't. And Amanda says, I don't. Do you think that's the same one? I says, I'm not sure. Is there more than one Chantel on the island? Surely there's more than one. Or is that the one? So yeah. It's kind of one of those things.
What did your friend Paul Brown
say?
say?
Paul Brown. Yeah, he's like, no, that's it. Just her. That's her office, and which he's probably just 200 meters down the road from you.
That's it. There's only one.
I was like, hey, do you know Chantal Napa? He goes, oh, yeah, the Napas. Yeah, that's her office. I thought, oh, okay, right.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much. Cool. See, told you.
That's it. So yeah,
everybody knows me.
Yeah, now I know when I recommend it to other people, I'm looking like you don't need to ask. That's the only Chantel on the island.
And go on her website and pay her fee. Otherwise, she ain't going to reply to you.
That's it. Or scan the QR code.
Scan the QR code on her building.
That's it.
Recommendations for first-time travellers to the Cook Islands, Rarotonga. Go, John.
Okay.
First-time traveller.
Yeah, so definitely ride the bus, ride it both directions. If obviously during the weekdays, if you're a dweeb like me and the weather's a bit inclement, then doing things like the museum are definitely really, really cool. What else did you do while you're here? Walk along the beach.
At nighttime and daytime, I reckon.
That's right. Yeah,
take a torch with you.
It's always warm here, so even if in cyclone season, it's just really warm. So definitely do that. I would recommend walking along the beach and visiting the other resorts and hotels. Just all their bars are just on the beach, so you just it's a good way to pub crawl. They have they have a party bus that takes you around, but I kind of think for what you pay to get on that pub crawl, you might as well just spend that walking or stumbling at some point from one point to the next. So also recommend you carry some cash because taxis.
What did you pay to get back from Woody? $20, $40, eh?
$40
From Woody to the Edgewater.
That's right. Yeah, because halfway around the island apparently.
Yeah, that would be right.
Although someone else told me it's $15, it doesn't matter.
Gosh, going to my little, so that would make it 16 kilometers halfway. So what would that be? $3 a kilometer? 30, 6 3 18, that'd be 48. Yeah, so about $2.80 a kilometer.
Yeah.
What, how much do they charge in New Zealand a kilometer?
I don't know.
Because you don't get taxi.
You drive. Yeah. So I either drive or you get in an Uber. Most of my Uber trips are quite short. And because they cancel on me because they're too short of a trip for them to even be bothered, I end up walking angry anyway to my location. So, yeah, it doesn't really matter.
It's not, I know, because you've got a car hire place where you're staying.
Yep.
But I know you chose not to.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, you wanted to bus it, you wanted to walk it, you wanted to,
Yeah.
So you can hire a car.
Absolutely.
Everyone.
Yeah, you can definitely get a car, especially in inclement weather, and then the scooters. But I just said, look, this is not going to be my only time here, so I'll do all those other things.
What about data as a first timer?
That was going to be our next recommendation. Is definitely get a
visitor SIM card.
A visitor SIM card,
$49,
and then and that's more cost effective because you'll get the hotel data plan, whatever that is, and that's an okay chunk. But if you're prolific in
if
sharing,
you're out and about. Because the $49 SIM card, I think, is 5 gig. I forgot how many texts overseas and 30 minutes of calling as well. Because I noticed you grumbling the other day saying, oh, my goodness, I've just spent this much money. You had a notification from your provider? Yeah,
my provider just sends me a notification saying, oh, look, it looks like you're roaming overseas. By the way, bro, you've gone over it by at least this dollar amount. And I thought, I wonder what it actually is. It'd be nice if they could told me what I've spent. So I've just kind of switched off and into airplane mode and wherever I can catch the, or if I need to, then I'll just jump on the roaming.
Wi-Fi, roaming.
Just to send out a quick message. So you definitely want to make sure they get the SIM card, but at the moment it's only sold at the Vodafone.
I know. I used to sell them.
Yep. Well,
I had a chat to Philip Henderson, the CEO of Vodafone. He goes, look, Telecommunications Act has changed since COVID.
Yep.
Everybody can't sell them now. We've got to get a copy of their passport. And I said, well, we can do that for you as resellers.
Yep.
Like if we can still make a little bit like we did before, I think we made 20% of every SIM card we sold.
Sure.
So we made like $9.
Yep.
I'll ask you for your passport copy if I'm going to make $9.
Yeah, and we're quite used to that as international travelers anyway. So definitely do that. I would, if you're a first timer here, definitely participate in some of the hotel activities that they got there.
Yeah, you've had fun.
Yeah, so I've had fun. I've
learning to dance.
Yeah, doing the dances.
The little crab race, and your wife won. Remember?
Yeah, that's it.
She picked number 2 and she won.
I know, that sucks. Chose number 11. Won twice. That's me. Yeah, nowhere close. Mine didn't even. I think he just laid there. I'm like, oh, teacher, lazy.
Amanda came back. My crab won the race. I got $29 just for my happy hour.
I know. Get lost. Your win sucks.
And she's learned how to. Remember, you did the coconut fronds hats.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
You learned to make that.
Yeah, we learned to weave the hats and to weave roses. She learned how to tie her sarong. And to do some of the dancing as well. So so definitely participate in those hotel activities. We did, even though the island night was canceled, the buffet was on. And so
we discussed that because all the dancers, that weather was too horrific for them to come. So I'm sorry you missed it.
Yeah, well, a lot of people were grumbling about it at the hotel, and I just said to some of them, so you want people to come out in probably one of the worst weather settings in the country just to entertain.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense, does it? And they thought,
and it's 30 people.
Yeah,
because in the group there'd be like 10 women, 10 boys, all the band. That's 30 people to bring out in different vehicles, in different vehicles.
Yeah, so that's
I'm podcasting, sorry. I'm recording podcasting. Sorry.
So those are some of the recommendations I suppose you would do as a first timer. I definitely would recommend just spending time on the ground. So, and what I mean by that is, to stop and walk around, just walk out of the hotel and walk down the road. It's actually quite safe because the speed limit not only is 50 k's, but everybody's very nice about you walking on the road. They just go around you. Where if you're in some countries, they think it's a game to run you over. So it's very safe here to just go walking around, because one of the days it was pounding down, and me running across the kind of, I guess, the designated kind of grass area, because there's no real sidewalks, was almost impossible. So it's kind of running on the road, and people were just going around me. No one's beeping, telling me to get off the road. No one's yelling at me or anything. Everyone's just thumbs up going, keep going, bro.
Yeah. I mean, even today when you and I went up to the waterfall, you know how I was videoing you for your TripAdvisor, and then I had those 4 young adolescents, visitors on their bikes by themselves, and I can't help it. I say, go slowly, gravel moves. We just innately want to care and make sure that everybody who visits us is safe and okay. Yeah. Right, because it's the gravel moves, and we've had all this fronds and everything everywhere. Okay, so recommendations for returning travelers?
I would say from a returning traveler standpoint, only because Amanda's been here as well, and some of the other people I've spoken to in New Zealand who've been here as well, that the only thing that they can recommend to me are just the very kind of, lack of a better word, generic tourist activities, going on the boat and going snorkeling and things. I think if you're a returning tourist and you want to experience more things, then you probably need to look a bit harder at some of the other experiences that are around. Unless you're here to work on your tan, then ignore my advice. But there's quite a lot of venues that I see that I've taken photos of, that I thought, when I come back, I don't need to do these other activities. When I return, which everyone thinks, but you got to do it every time you're there. I'm thinking, no, you don't. I'm going to go try this other stuff and check it out as well, and experience some of the other hotels, because there's so much going on for a small island. There's so many things to see and experience, and places to check out that you won't be able to get it in your first time. But if you're returning and you return regularly, I would recommend that you find other activity that you normally wouldn't do and try them out, because you only live once. And if you're coming to the island, that snorkeling is always going to be here. So park that activity and try something else different that you've not done before.
Great. So how I thought I could ask you as well, John, about any differences in your experience between here in Rarotonga and your time in Samoa, and also being Samoan descendant? Yeah,
so it's definitely very relaxed here in Rarotonga. I find it, it's really relaxed. Paul and a few other people had said, when someone says, tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow, that sometimes they mean not that tomorrow, but the next day after that tomorrow.
They haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, exactly. And he said he said, it's not like they're doing anything tomorrow. That's why they said they'll see you tomorrow, but for some reason they'll put it off to the next day. You kind of had a bit of a laugh about it, but he said it's just the relaxed nature, because where else are you going? What else are you doing? Just chill out. And I found that to be very different from in Samoa. There's a lot more going on, right? There's chores going on.
There's a lot more people too.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, there's only about 10,000 of us here, John, in Rarotonga, 17,000 in the whole of the Cooks. I think we've had 2,000 people leave in 2 years, right? So that would only leave about 9,000 of us here in Rarotonga. I mean, Samoa, do you know the population? It's
probably just over 200,000, and most of them live in Upolu versus.
See, look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 200,000 people as opposed to our 9,000.
Yeah. So it's very busy in Samoa. So you feel that instantly. The instant difference is that. So I find that it's very obvious. I also find that the not that they haven't been willing to share with me when I have been in Samoa, but there's I guess, I'm not sure if it's an innate nature, but there's a more, I guess, casual approach to, can I learn how to do this activity with you? And the staff going, yep, come on, let's, and, or I'm just going to call my cousin and he'll show you how to do it. Yeah, just hang out here, bro. So I find that really enjoyable, because there's almost kind of a, for me anyway, there's almost a stigma like, well, you're born on the island. How come you don't know how to do these, like husking coconuts? I'm kind of like, well, I was born here. You didn't absorb this when you were born. So there's a different level of expectation, I guess, for me, not so much from a tourist perspective, but I've noticed the difference for me where I feel like if I want to learn how to do, the males dance, but the teams, doesn't matter if it's not on the schedule. They're like, yeah, cool, we can help you with that. So where, it's probably more of a personal complex where I'm like, I'm not sure if I can ask. I might just be, I might embarrass someone to be like, oh my God, this guy, are you sure you're born here? So I tend to shy away from those kind of activities where I feel a little more relaxed about doing that stuff here. So So and I've been posting online.
Classic what you and I did today.
Exactly. Yeah.
When I said to you, when was the last time you husked a coconut?
Yeah.
You were like, 2003. And I said, okay, well, same for me. I don't do it every day. I asked my 12-year-old to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I should have a go too. We can do this, John.
Exactly.
I said to you, surely we can do this.
Yeah.
Mike, just put it in there. Put it.
We'll figure it out.
See, it's just
Exactly.
a different approach to it instead of like, so can you do this? So, you're brown, and then you'll get this, like you said, I don't want to try it. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, I've been back to SAR several times from in the last few years. And so when I get asked, hey, do you want to come and help? Part of me is I'm like, yes, but I don't want to because I'm not as skilled. And then because I'm a Matai as well, sometimes it's actually, no, you don't get to do these chores. You get to go sit in the front. Yeah. And I'm kind of like, oh, this kind of sucks. I really would like to experience.
Get my hands dirty.
Yeah, exactly. And experience this stuff and be as natural as these guys. So I do find it more relaxed and more enjoyable to be in a different Pacific nation amongst, similar culture that I can then kind of go, oh, yeah, I think I'll do that experience because that's something that there's an expectation that I should know.
Me.
Yeah.
Like Cook Islanders, we look like you. They look like me.
Yeah.
I'm a tourist, and they're not going to make me feel bad that I can't husk this coconut.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just the butt of all jokes for my cousins back inside going, this guy. They're like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to go to the front like I'm supposed to. Like, I should have just stayed in the front like the other Matais. Later. So, so different experience for me because I'm, because of what's my connection to Samoa. But I was telling Amanda, and in some of my posts, I'm like, I had to come all the way to Rarotonga to learn how to do this stuff. I had to come all the way to, and I go, really, bro? I said, no judgment here. It's kind of like, they don't know me, so that's cool. So, which I quite enjoy.
Yeah. Actually, I enjoyed it. That's what I said twice when I went to Samoa. I said I quite enjoying it because it's like home. It's just bigger and no one knows who I am.
That's right. Yeah. The anonymity is really, really great.
So I was thinking we could lead towards opportunities for economic development and growth.
Yep.
I made a note of that because I know you've got a little bit of expertise on that.
Yeah. So I would, for me, we're listening to one podcast that you had.
When we were driving today.
Yeah, we were driving.
We were listening to Sam Napa Jr. And then we were listening to that lady who's the professional board director, Karen Rangi. Yeah. And I think you nodded when she said something about the arts. Yeah. So it seems to, I guess I call it the wide string space. I don't refer to things as mainstream and niche because I think those particular constructs then mentally puts you in a particular space and then and artificially places barriers, right? And so when we look at tourism as a whole, and we look at culture, people think your culture, my culture, sits in the tourism space from a wide stream economic development space, and we see it quite often that you made the comment that people don't only just pay to see us dance, and our culture, our history, shouldn't just be a lack of a better description, a gimmick that people pay for, and then they kind of go off and go, yeah. And we see that in New Zealand. That it's evolving. Māori taking a massive, approach to just widely opening their arms, saying, "We're not just here to shake, to shake and dance for you and do a haka." That many of our parts of our culture are part of the wider stream space versus just mainstream, right? So, I was at an event where I was speaking to someone, and someone said to me, "Oh, you're a Pacific business owner."
So now I'm a business owner. And I am in the Pacific space.
Yeah.
Ethnically I'm Pacific, but I'm a business owner.
So what? You're a Chinese business owner?
So
you're a
and what that does is artificially, when people are having discussions, they kind of go, "I'll talk to John because one of his businesses is a Pacific business." See, but talk to me about other stuff too. So when we look at things and we say, well, there's the mainstream space and then there's the Pacific space. I think, well, I don't know about you, but I interact with the same currency as the other people do. So if we don't, if we don't look at our contributions to an economy and think like from a wide stream space, we're all in this. If we look at tourism as a whole, kind of go, you don't have Pacific tourism and then you have mainstream Cook Island, tourism. It's just tourism here. Cook Island, same thing in New Zealand. You don't have Maori and then Pacific and their own little slice, and then you kind of go, and then there's tourism in New Zealand. I look at that and think, well, no, because we talk about it quite often in the business space. How do we get more, right? How do we grow our reach? How do we grow our financial incentives for customers to spend with us? Well, you don't do that in the Pacific space. You don't even do it in the Maori space. You have to do it in the wider space because tourists are coming from all over the world.
That's what I mean. Like when they said to you, you're a Pacific
I
entrepreneur, and I'm like, what? So I'm a Cook Island entrepreneur, and you're, I don't know.
Yeah. So I look at so if you look at one of the interesting things I find in terms of opportunities that people, as I look at wide stream television and this television series called Survivor. And I look at it and I crack up and go, you don't put Islanders on that show because we probably win. Right, because we know how to survive. Because they give these people, a group of people who have never been on an island, deserted, and they give them a machete, and then everybody's either working on their abs or trying to, out trick the other person. But no one has any skills. And so when they make a little house or make a little hut, and everybody pats themselves on the back, and I was like, "Wow, geez, Gary, you're just phenomenal." And I'm like, "Why? What? That's not phenomenal, dude. That's what we do on a regular." And this is why I really enjoy the cultural
Like the other night when we were putting the arch on the back of the truck, I was like, I'm a ning nong, I forgot to bring rope. All right, let's have a look around. There's a curtain wire over there, John. Yep. And you took off your belt.
That's right, yeah.
Remember to say, took off your belt. We tied it around to secure it down. Yeah. Think.
So I look at that and think, whether they're called survival skills or for us in the Pacific, these are just normal things you just teach your children how to build to live on islands or in a tropical location. It's kind of think, well, that's not a Pacific skill set. That's not a cultural skill set. That's a skill set that just needs to be just taught widely in general. Because the reality is that what happens when the internet dies?
I can tell you. I can tell you because one day in this very room, Vodafone head whatever went down. Right? I think it was 2018. And then what do you call it? We drove past it today, John.
Oh, right, yeah. The big
satellite thing, right? It went down, right?
Yeah.
Boom, everything. So I had a young assistant working with me at that time. She was 18. And she's like tapping there, picking up there. Credit card machine's not going, phone's not going, this not going, that, and she just went standstill.
Yeah.
And she goes, nothing's working. And I go, okay. She goes, I don't know what to do. I said, well, while we're figuring it out, how about you pick up that mop there and start mopping out the back there and just cleaning up while we figure it out.
Yep.
And so then she's like, oh. So she goes, and I'm like, okay. Right. So then they did the fantastic old school thing, John. Someone from Vodafone got on their vehicle and drove around and told all of us what had happened.
What has happened. Yep.
So then we knew what we were dealing with. We were like, okay. Right. I said, grab that folder there and that folder there, get in the vehicle, and you drive around and tell all of our vendors. And so we went back to the face-to-face. But when the internet stopped, a lot of people didn't know what to do and they didn't know how to go back to pen and paper.
Yeah. Well, and I would probably say from a modern standpoint, I mean, you look at Tonga, right? Just had a volcano explode on itself. The fiber cable's been cut, communication's been cut. But a lot of the people leading the recovery of things in Tonga are the elderly people who are like, yeah, cool, whatever. We got to clear the farmland. We've got to do these things. These houses have been blown out. We need to build these houses. And these are skills. It's not like you're building a Pacific hut. You're building a house. You're building a structure. It's not that really kind of hard to understand what that is. But quite often, what happens in industries, everyone kind of takes those skill sets and say that sits here in this little Pacific space. And so when we were listening to
Karen,
Karen, where she says, we've got to look at things that we do on a regular basis, that's day to day, that's normal for us, and understand the value in that. And then that value, because if we don't value those skills that are normal to us, then how's anyone else going to value those things? And we do.
She said that too.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm not. She's exactly right, because that's why some of the tourism experiences do really, really well. People pay to cuss coconuts, because at some point you might need to. When? Who cares? But quite often I watch these zombie films, and I kind of go, "What? I wonder what's happening on the islands when the Walking Dead's walking around." You can imagine Auntie looking at the dead people, going, "Hey, go and do some chores." Over here talking about come and eat my brains. Get lost. You know what I mean? I just think what's happening in some of these other countries, in these movies, in these TV series. And in terms of their ability to survive. And I quite often think, they're probably fine. They're probably able to deal with the situation and continue on living. But when you look at The Walking Dead's a great one. I watch it, I think the entire structure in our society collapsed. Right, government completely collapsed, and everybody's running around trying to figure out how to farm. People are trying to figure out how to build houses and all this. It's just like, oh gosh, are we that dumb? Have we parked everything into our technical devices? So. I think for the Cook Islands or Rarotonga, that the skill sets that we have that are just natural, you're taught before you go off to New Zealand to do high school and whatever, those are things that need to be valued more and then monetized well. So that way the economy is not just relying on tourists. This should be a place people go, I need to go there to learn these things. There's a reason why businesses, Wall Street and London and many other people, when they need financial geniuses, they go to places like Singapore, because they produce, these minds, right? The knowledge that we have as people in general is valuable, but is it only from a tourism aspect? And I think there's a massive opportunity to grow that and expand past that point.
Thank you, John, for sharing. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking of my kids, my 12 and my 10-year-old, right? I hate those tablets they have. That their dad got them some new ones for Christmas, right? And the reason is, we're going to wrap up soon, everyone. But the other day, my 10-year-old goes, "Mum, how do you do?" It was something she was asking me. You know what I said to her, because I was annoyed? I said, "Why don't you ask TikTok?" And she goes, "Mum," I said, "ask TikTok."
Yeah.
I said, because, you see everything that comes out of that stupid TikTok is like, woohoo. I said, so ask TikTok to answer your question that I said, because you're in there too much. And I try and put boundaries, John, and they're just like, oh, she's not looking. Oh, she's not looking. I even turn the Wi-Fi off at home. Right. And it's just
say, well, look,
I'm just saying that how I innately ended up with these natural skill sets of husking, big knife in the boot, gardening gloves in the boot. We didn't have those gadgets. And
so I look at TikTok, I look at YouTube, I look at all these things, right? These things are not new, right? So 500,000 years ago, we were drawing on walls because we were trying to tell a story. These things, these devices are tools on how we tell stories. I was watching somebody take a photo of his wife in the pool today.
Yeah.
She's turning and this and that, and I just thought to myself, we as humans have evolved so much, but there's some very basic things that we find a need to still do, which is paint a picture. Right? We've gone from painting on walls, scratching on walls, to now these devices that almost mimic. And the reason why so much money is put into creating the best camera, because the best camera we've got are our own eyes. There's no way you're going to replicate that, but we get quite close, because we're not trying to take a photo image and replace what we're seeing. we're trying to take that photo image or this particular snap in the moment and tell that story, right? So I think it's finding a balance in that stuff. If to my kids are rough around the same age as yours, and when I do get a chance to talk to them, and they
You're
say,
appreciative of the device.
Absolutely. And when they say things like, "Well, I saw this on YouTube," and because they're mixed, they're half Samoan and Hispanic, and so they got a lot of exposure on the Hispanic side. And for many years, my daughter thought the Moana movie was made for her. The lost story of her coming out in the world. Okay, you can be a princess if you want. But she'd watch YouTube videos, and my son would watch YouTube videos and go, "Oh, I've seen that they do this on the island." And someone said, "Well, that's fine. I mean, if you're watching stuff and if you're going to gather information from there, what's the next step? Because that's why you see people practicing to become TikTok stars, because they want to be the storyteller, not just having a million views and making money, but the initial thing is that I want to be a storyteller." And I look at this and I think, how do you take this particular tool that essentially now is our old cave wall that we used to scratch on, and how do you use that device to tell whatever story they're trying to tell? Quite often we're trying to entertain, people watch things for entertainment, and quite often people like things and go, "Man, it's really cool. I wish I can do that." You're not doing it because, "Well, I can't do that." Yeah. So, okay. If you try doing it, well, no. It's probably step one, right? We're missing these steps. And we're shortcutting.
I'm actually looking at John going, "You've just explained it to me, and now I don't dislike it because I haven't had it explained to me like this."
It's all these tools, right? That, people go, "Oh, that's going to rot your brain." That's going to rot your brain. Well, of course. And when the mind is idle, even when you're watching things online and swiping.
But it's the best way to say it. Thanks. It's a storytelling.
Yeah, but it's storytelling. But that's all this is, right? That's all we're doing is TikTok storytelling. And before TikTok, there was YouTube, and we're putting up videos. But people aren't going, "Look at me, how cool I am." People are going, "Here's the story I want to tell you." And we laugh and we kind of go, "I like that storytelling, so I'm going to follow that person." Of course, the attention span is shrunk from 3-minute videos to 2 minutes to 90 seconds to 8 seconds. But for me, that says, how much can you tell in 8 seconds? A shitload, apparently. And when I do watch videos that are going over 8 seconds, I actually consciously kind of go, "Shit, that's a long video." But I'm still watching because I quite like the story. And I'll follow who I want to follow because I like what they're showing, whether it's an informative video and things. And, one of my sisters who was born in the U.S., and she said, we were watching her, and I said to her, "Oh, look, can you go grab the broom and sweep the floor?" And no shit, she pulled up her phone and started looking things up. I'm thinking, "What are you doing? Did I tell you this before?" She goes, "Well, I've never done it before." Right? There's 15 kids in the family, so you kind of lose track and kind of go, "Oh, that's right. You were the batch that never did any chores." I'm like, "Oh, you suck. You're never going to make a good independent person." And she's literally looking, going, "Oh."
Maybe she was looking at someone she could hire to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't put me past it. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't put it past her. But it's interesting watching her try to sweep.
That'd be solving the problem.
And then you're kind of watching them sweep.
Let me look for the closest cleaning company.
And you're looking kind of going, "How did you miss that massive ass spot right there?" They're like, "I don't know. I don't know how to sweep." And they're literally watching YouTube videos. And for me, that's
that's my kids.
Yeah, and I look at that and I think, well, obviously, in terms of knowledge, passing on the knowledge, we haven't done a great job passing that on to her. But I thought, what a great story. And back then it was iPods. So you just turn on the iPod and record that and be like, she's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, you will forever be known as that person who does not know how to sweep at the age of 14 years old. And then post that story. And it's a crack up story that we all tell each other when we're all together, and we all kind of.
My kids aren't that bad.
Yeah.
That's because I raise my voice and go, "Put that down. Go over here."
Yeah, so I think you look at these devices and you think, how else do you use it? I mean, I get told off, Amanda goes, "Oh, geez, you're always on that thing." I said, but this is how I not only consume information, but it's how I connect to people.
And it's also, at the moment, as I've just heard, you make money.
Yep, that's right.
Right?
Yep.
So
through storytelling, through my reviews.
Thank you for explaining to me what TikTok is, because I never actually went to sort of research what it is. Right. I just saw it as annoying because I saw my kids were like, but yeah, I'll have a look at it now. It's storytelling, because I like storytelling.
Yeah. 8 seconds. It's quite a challenge, but yeah.
So awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
You.
Any last thoughts or comments, John, that you'd like to leave our listeners with today?
Definitely. Pack light. This is not a place that you require anything other than shorts and a muscle shirt. So and only pack a few of them.
Runners,
Yep.
jandals.
Pack a few pairs of shoes, but and just get to learn the locals and relax like everyone else.
Thank you and meitaki to our guest, John Loau. It has been a genuine pleasure spending time with you today. I got to talk and talk, as everybody knows. To our podcast listeners, I appreciate you joining us today. Check out our podcast website, kioranapodcast.com. Noko ni ia matou, aroa iatu kia koto katotoa. Kiorana, John, that means may you live long. Airera, John, means farewell. And kia manuia, John, means good luck and good health.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Awesome.